this week on Not Just Another Sex Podcast.
I admire my mom, and she, really did a lot of things out of the box. So the fact that she allowed my father to be my custodial parent, she got judged like crazy. Like, what type of mom would like let her daughter live? Like, he's just as much of a parent as she is. So, in the conversation of like, we want men to do more, then you can't also judge a mom for letting a man do more.
Hey, sugar. I feel like there are so many different things that I need to learn as an adult. I'm this nasty on a regular day, like on a Tuesday. I am your host, Samaya Burton, and don't worry, it's not just another sex podcast. Hey, you guys, welcome back to Not Just Another Sex Podcast. My name is Samaya, and I'm your host, and thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. So, per the usual, I have an amazing episode for you guys. I'm so excited. But before we get into it, I'm going to read one of these reviews. Thank you so much to everybody that has left one. I say it all the time, but if you listen to the show, just drop a review. We are very quick to tell somebody when we don't like something, but think back, when is the last time you really loved something and you told somebody about it? So if you love the show, leave a review for me. It means a lot. Like, sometimes imposter syndrome can come up, and I'm telling all my business on these shows. So I want to make sure that it's for you guys and that it's resonating, and just knowing how it's changing and moving people, it really does do something for me. So talk to your girl nice, okay? So this review comes from Tricky Player. It says, my unofficial homegirl therapist. Samaya is 5 stars. Okay. Samaya is one of the realest and relatable creators I've listened to. I get notifications when she posts a new episode. This is what I'm listening to on my way to work, on my way home, while I'm cleaning the house. It's always a good time to listen. Listening to your podcast has really helped me in my daily life, whether it's work related, relationships, friendships, etc. If you ever have a meet and greet or an in-person podcast with a live audience, please let us know. I will be there. Keep up the great work. Love and peace. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Absolutely do have a live show coming up. I'm going to drop the date soon. I just need to get the details together. But if you guys don't remember, but last year when we were supposed to do art exhibit, we end up having to not do that, and that was the first time I actually did a live show. We transitioned to do that, and that is actually recorded, and thank you guys for your patience, but we just got that edited, so when you're listening to this, it might be out, so make sure you check the link below, so that way you can watch it, available on Patreon, where all of our bonus content is. But love you guys. Please keep leaving your reviews. All right, so today I have an amazing guest, ATLian. Yes. Okay. Miss Lauren Miller. Say hey to the folks.
Hey, folks. How are y'all?
Yes. So, you guys, this episode is so unique for me. I've been sharing on the solos with Samaya, just the transformation that I've been going to, really leaving my trauma behind and just becoming somebody new and living in what is and not what was. And the way that it's showing up for me has been just really moving already. Like today, I know you guys are going to listen to this at another time, but today is the first day of spring. So happy New Year to you. And this is the first day that I've recorded since last year. So I know you guys are getting episodes and stuff like that, like it's March, but we, both recorded. And so this is our first day back. And the episodes that we recorded today have been amazing and just really are a reflection of the woman that I was healing over the winter break. So yes. I'm excited to get into it. But before we do that, we're going to ease you in with a little foreplay.
Okay.
We don't want to go in too fast.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So we always start off my show with the adult tip of the day.
Okay.
Adult tip of the day is because I don't know about you, but one day you look up, the responsibility is on you to figure it out, I got to set my dentist appointment. If somebody pass out, I got to know the symptoms of a stroke. I got to know that, who's doing all this, right?
Exactly.
And so this is just like a little 5-minute segment where we just share something that you might need to remember, so that way you could say, all right, I adulted today. Just like I adulted today, boom.
Okay.
And sometimes that's a life hack, or my therapist says, or just something to make you think. And so today's adult tip of the day, I apologize because I screenshotted this without the creator, so I'll make sure that I put that below. But it was a video, and so I was trying to screenshot real quick. But her message said, I grew up a bedroom kid and always thought it was weird that my kids never liked to hang out in their bedrooms. I tried to add things to make them cooler and more of a hangout spot. But my aha moment was the realization and beauty that my kids prefer to hang out in the communal space. My bedroom was my comfort and safety zone. I've created a home that is is the comfort and safety zone. My kids know inside these doors they are safe and they're heard. Breaking cycles isn't always these huge breakthroughs. Sometimes it's a quiet revelation. And I absolutely get it.
Yeah.
I feel that. And this episode today is really about the other side of that. Like a lot of times, you know, I've done these episodes from the perspective of what I've went through and the trauma and stuff like that. This is a personal journal. So last year was about breaking out, telling that story. But like this year, I'm a different woman, and I want to make sure that I'm keeping up with the frequency and the energy that I'm moving along with, which means how am I going to address life now as this woman that's okay, you know, like, and so that is the breakthrough moment for me. My child asked me for a boat for his birthday, and I was looking at him like, okay, I mean, not this year,
Right.
but a
heard
different
you.
year.
Heard.
And it's just like he doesn't understand what moving from scarcity is.
That's beautiful.
And as an adult and as a parent, it can make me feel like, why you want all that? And I don't say it, but in my mind, I'm like, damn, he don't think I'm doing enough. He just doesn't understand.
Right.
I've always given him everything.
Right.
He has no lack. And I was just like, damn, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Good job.
Think we got boat money.
Okay.
And we do.
Right. Give yourself a pat on the back for that one.
And yeah, so anything that you would love to add to this, or, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like, you know, as you get older, like the woman that you quoted said, is like there's certain aspects you're like, oh wow, this is an answered prayer, or like, wow, I'm actually living in a prayer that I said years ago, and it's here, and it can be very like, you can get very full, you know what I mean? And I remember like when I was caring for my father, it was a very traumatic ass experience, and I dreamed about this time that I'm living now, of just not being under a cloud, constant cloud. And it just feels so good to know that God is always hearing you and God is faithful, and that things may not change when you want them to change, but he hears you and you will get there. And so I am in alignment with everything that she said. It's just like those little small, I think they're glimmers that I've been hearing about, like glimmer moments of where you're like, whew.
I call them breadcrumbs.
Yeah. Hello. Okay.
I gotta find something that sounds a little cuter than that. Sound like I'm a little pigeon. I need some. Maybe I gotta change that this year. But I always say that, like, when you feel like, how am I gonna do this?
Right.
You start questioning yourself, you get these breadcrumbs. And, you know, when you guys leave the reviews, to me, that's always a breadcrumb, because the reviews are always available to me. But it's crazy, the ones that I read when I read them.
Yep.
And what they say. And it's usually talking to something that I was maybe questioning earlier that day, or like, damn, do more of that. Like when I started the solos with Samaya, I'm on that motherfucker talking by myself for an hour, and I'm going in. Like, I'm like, do people want to hear this?
Right.
And people are like, yo, I love these. Like, thank you. Like, so it's all of that. But I really love that. I really love that. So
yeah.
Our next segment, and then we're going to have you introduce yourself so that way it can all make sense for everybody.
All right.
Is the Twitter Talk. And Twitter Talk is another quick segment because Black Twitter has always been a culture. And we call it Black Twitter. We can call it this. We can call it that. But at the end of the day, it's really us making everything what it is. The fact that they still call it Black Twitter, even though they didn't change their name, right? And the fact that, you know, tweets make it over to TikTok. They make it over to Instagram. And, you know, I'm quoting it on my show. Like, you know, Black is us. It's us. We are the culture, and I love that. Yep. So, but it's also where, you know, things can get sticky. It could be something serious, and they're gonna make jokes on Black Twitter, or it's gonna get people going back and forth. And so that's what this is. Because my show is kind of heavy, I'm a deep girly. This is where we can just kind of like hit those debates or those things that are like,
okay. Let's
so
do it.
Today's topic, because I am talking to a money mogul here, is NDAs and prenups. And a lot of times we see online where people like, why you got to sign an NDA to date them? Or like even when Lori Harvey was, you know, they were like, oh, Lori Harvey makes people sign NDAs. Like, I didn't bat an eye. I understand that. And when it comes to prenups, like, I'm sorry, but this is my child's, and not saying that if we get married, whatever, but I would love to hear
so
your standpoint.
Prenup, yes. I mean, I have, you know, things that I own or that I'm a part of that predate me. So I cannot put you know, my family's legacy or what we have in jeopardy because I love you. I mean, and truth be told, you know, I don't have an issue with it because obviously, like, I don't believe in divorce. I don't want to get divorced. And when I talk to guys about it, it's just like, you know, find another woman that needs you to sign one too, and your problem solved. You know what I mean? And the thing about prenups is it's not all doom and gloom. Like, you can say, like, it allows you to kind of talk about the type of marriage that you do want, what those boundaries are, like what are non-negotiables for you. Or even if you're a mom, it's like, all right, every kid I'm getting X. No, I mean, because that's I'm getting close to death. Like, that is real, and I think women should advocate more. Really, you know, and obviously it's not about me taking anything or me, because I don't want anybody's money, like their hard-earned success or whatever. But I do think it sets the stage of like who you are, what you have, and your belief around what your worth is. You know what I mean? And the hope is that we'll never have to use this at all. Right. But to have it in place, there's just a sense of comfort. And you also want to make sure nobody's getting with you just because of what you have. You know what I mean? And then obviously there's a world in which you can create that goes beyond what you're coming into the marriage with. And so you have this blank canvas to create a wealth of various different things that, you know, have nothing to do with what you came into that marriage with. So I am an advocate for protecting what you have and what you come into a situation with. And I don't think it's all doom and gloom. Obviously, if you get married early when you're 18 to 20, you don't have much. So I understand.
Ain't nothing to put on this paper.
There's nothing to put on the paper. So I understand, you know, people that have been married for years and years are like, oh, we didn't need a prenup. But yeah, you're a child.
Yeah.
And you built everything with that person, so it makes sense. But I think if you are somebody like me, I'm 36, and so I do have wishes to get married and have children. And when you're at this age, if you have been walking to walk and talking to talk, you got some shit. You know what I mean? And so, and we know the stats, and it's not about living in the statistical world or living in defeat, but you also want to be real, right? And so if I'm dating a guy who has a child, I would hope that he would want me to sign a prenup. That child and the well-being of that child predates me. I would never take anything out of a child's mouth. That's just not who I am. But I wouldn't jump at it. It wouldn't make me feel away because that's your child. Yeah. You know what I mean? And your child should be protected. NDAs, like, I don't know if I would need the guy that I'm dating to sign an NDA, but I definitely understand why somebody like Lori Harvey wants somebody to sign an NDA. Yeah. But I'm all for contractual agreements. All for it. And I just think you just need the shit laid out.
It's just upfront boundaries to me. To me, it kind of sounds like we're level-headed right now.
Right. And we love each other, but like,
things can change.
You know, things can change. And people always say you don't really know a person until you divorce them. And I think that's a real thing. And, you know, I hope I don't ever get to know the divorced you, whoever my husband's watching. I don't want to get to know the divorced you, but that's a real thing.
Yeah.
And like you said, it just puts, you are forced to have a certain conversation. I remember when I was younger, this may be a little superficial, but I was just like, you know, I put out prenup, if we gain more than 40 pounds, you can say something to me about it, and vice versa. Like, cause I want us to feel like that I'm putting in work to be here, and vice versa. Like, I want you to still be attracted to me. I still want to hold up my end. I want you to feel like you're holding up your side of the bargain. Cause why are we doing this if we're not trying to be our best selves? You know what I mean? And we're not checking each other and, you know, pointing at each other with a little bit of tough love. And so, yeah, I'm all for him.
Now, before this episode, I did have to ask Miss Lauren, what is your sign, baby? And her rising sign is Capricorn. Yes. And let me tell you, my best friend is a Capricorn, and he is very much so. If it don't make sense, what are we talking about? Like, it literally has, like, he's literally so logical. And so my North Node, which I was telling you about, is your destiny point. My North Node is in Capricorn. And so I strive to be less of the, not less emotional, but understanding that the emotion and the business are absolutely separate. And so, like, that when people ask, like, how did you get here, or how do you work with creatives? Like, because, you know, creatives, it's all emotion, so much emotion. And I said, we do boundaries. First of all, I'm gonna talk to you nice. No doesn't mean hell no. No just means that does not work for the boundaries of this. Or hey, let's talk about if this doesn't work, because in creative life, everything doesn't always work. So how are we going to decipher these funds, or what's yours and what's mine? Like, and if we can't talk about it, to me, that's a sign. That's a sign.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you have to get comfortable with uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
Life is you know, if you're really out here doing anything, or even if you want a certain depth of a relationship or a certain level of vulnerability, you have to be comfortable having uncomfortable conversations. You don't have to live there, but you have to have them.
Because those are the honest
Right.
conversations.
Those are the honest conversation. And that's just a sign of your maturity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
When it comes to definitely doing business, if we can't talk about the boundaries or like, hey, how does this work if it doesn't work out? Totally. I'm always going to hit you that. Good. I'm glad that you want to protect yourself. Like, let's think about it now while we clear headed.
Right.
Like, you know, so for sure. So thank you for chiming in on that. So before we get into these topics, it's time for our introduction.
Yes.
As dramatic as I am, y'all know, I was going through one of my days and I was, oh no, I live in a van. I don't know what to do. You know, this was a little old. And I really was struggling though with my identity as a mother who was doing something different for my child. And I've shared over the winter break with the solos with Samaya with that, confronting that particular, over the last 3 months, I confronted that. Moving into van life full time from a regular, like a traditional home was and mind you, I went through a lot of therapy, a lot of healing, and that one floored me. And I ran across Lauren's page and obsessed, because you were sharing a lot of your life. And I would love for you to just introduce yourself to the folks and tell me about you.
Woo. Okay. So I am Lauren Rosa Miller. I am an entrepreneur, business owner, a legacy keeper of my family. I'm on my third career, if you will. I currently serve as the Chief Growth Officer for Miller 3 Consulting. It's a second generation business. We primarily work with governments on the local, state, and federal level. We've been around for over 37 years. But outside of that, I am a creative. I'm a lover of people, and I have had a very diverse set of experiences over the course of my life. And I also come from a lot of privilege. And so God has always told me I need to use what is specific to me to help other people that look like me. And so since, I guess, for the last 10 years since I've been online, I've just shared so much about who I am, my life, and the learning lessons, because I do feel like God has given me the gift of sight and vision to be able to look at what people have been going through or what they're dealing with to kind of see how I can help propel them in terms of where they want to go. I have spoken all over the world. Before I took over the family business, I had my own lifestyle and travel brand called Can't Stay Put. I'm an original OG in the travel space. I don't even call myself a travel influencer. My title, I was an inspirational explorer. I made the title up. This is 2013, before travel influencer was even a term. And through that, I did a lot of like public speaking in Soweto, Chile, India, a lot of destination marketing. And when I was doing that, my father actually got sick, and his ask of me was, Lauren, help me live as long as possible to get you and your siblings ready for my departure. And at the time I was 26, didn't really know what that meant, you know, and I carried a lot. It was a very big level of responsibility to take on caregiving and securing my father's personal and professional affairs. But it was one of the most life-changing experiences that I've ever gone through, and I would do it 10 times over, you know. And I learned so much about myself, about my father, and just the importance of where we come from in terms of where we're going. And I'm just such an advocate for just the Black family and succession planning and legacy building and legacy preservation. And, you know, Black people in this country have done so much. And sometimes our legacies are not amplified and preserved, and going through that process, I call like the passing of the baton process, if you will. I'm just such an advocate to talk more and just speak more about just the Black family and the legacies that we have created in this country. And for me, I use my family as a blueprint, because I mentioned this to you earlier. My family, we have been farmers and landowners for over 150 years. And so I come from a long, rich legacy of entrepreneurship and ownership. And for me, it's like, how can I use that blueprint to help other Black families? Because it's hard to create something you've never seen before, right? And so for me, it's like, all right, that's something that I can give to my community. It's like, if you're first generation, this is like, okay, you know, I want you to look at me and like, I am who you are working for, like, such that your children or your grandchildren can move very freely. So when you are down and I was like, why am I even doing this shit? This is so fucking hard. I want to quit, right? There are seeds that you are planting that people that you may not even get to meet will benefit from. There are things that my ancestors seeds that they planted that I get to sit in the shade. And so when you are going through those tough times, I'm here to remind you that it is worth it. That there will be somebody that is thank you that you may not ever get to meet. And so I use my platform to raise awareness around legacy building, government contracting, travel, the whole nine. I feel like I cover the gamut. So that is who I am, change maker of my generation, and just here to serve. You know, I like I said, I've been blessed with a lot of just privileges, whether they're tangible or intangible. And for me, it's like I have to use those privileges to help people that look like me. And that's what I do.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's the end of the episode, y'all. All right, not just playing. So we were sitting here talking, and you guys remember the episode with Rachel Travels? She was before Rachel Travels, okay? And I'm so excited for and because that's not who sent me you. Mm-mm. You know, I came across you, and it's just so crazy because alignment and just really being honest with the universe about what you're struggling with, so that way it can provide the answers for you.
Right.
And you know, I say universe, but it's all the things of spirituality. That's right. God for me. That's the stars. That's this energy. That's karma. It's my ancestors saying like, hey, give her a little nudge.
Right.
Like, you know. And so I really love the fact that I was able to just come across your page, because it really lifted a weight off of me, because I saw you did a post about like your mom, and you were like, you know, I gotta sit down, I cannot travel this month, whatever, but you know, my natural is to move around like my mom did. So please give me more, give me all the things about tell me about your mom.
So my mom is a superstar in her own right. And I would say she is Miss Can't Stay Put, the original. But my mom, from 5 years old, she was a White House appointee. And so she moved from Atlanta to DC. And my father was actually my custodial parent from 5 years old till I was 17. But because my mom had a White House appointment, I started flying by myself at 5 years old. So they would ping pong me between Atlanta and DC since I was a child. Like I bought a ticket with Sky Miles at like 10. So like I knew the airport like the back of my hand, like back when people could still go to the gate. Like that's like, but my mom growing up, obviously as a kid, I didn't really know all the things that she did, but I knew she traveled a lot. She took conference calls. She was always on the move. And I literally grew up to create a lifestyle that mirrored hers. Didn't really know. And so growing up, she was always a manifester. Before we even used the term, because that term wasn't even really being used back in the day. But like my mom would have me write out my vision for everything. Like if I was, you know, if we were going on the Disney cruise, like write out like the vision of how you want to experience the Disney cruise. And after the Disney cruise, I had to do a report. Or like I remember she had me interview somebody from the Little Rock Nine, like write out how you want the interview to go. So she's always been a visionary. And like during the summers, we would draw out all of our travels. And so my mom is like, it's hard to put into words because like she's a walking inspiration. And so outside of just being my mom, and so even at this age of I'm 36, my mom will be 75 in 2 months. I woke up a week ago and she was staying with me, and it was like 9:30 and she was up in the kitchen like working out. And one of the most tremendous blessings I would say for parents is like for your kids not have to worry about you. So like she takes care of her health. I don't have to worry about paying any bills. Like, I don't have to buy my mom a house. Like, and that's one of those things, like, you know, when I get on, I'm going to buy my mom a house. Like, I may buy her a beach house, but my mom has already owned a home. You know what I mean? So it's like, to know that she has such a vigor for life is such a blessing. And so I can contrast it to my father. Like, my father was a superstar in his own right, but he wasn't taking care of himself. You know what I mean? Like, and I was his caregiver. And my parents are divorced. And so I admire my mom, and she, you know, really did a lot of things out of the box. So the fact that she allowed my father to be my custodial parent, she got judged like crazy. Like what type of mom would like let her daughter live? Like he's just as much of a parent as she is. So, you know, in the conversation of like, we want men to do more, then you can't also judge a mom for letting a man do more, right?
Letting him do his half.
Exactly.
Not more than half, right? Let him do his half.
And truth be told, is like my mom was a very active parent. In fact, she was the disciplinarian. So even though she lived in DC, I still saw my mom just as much as people who may have had parents that lived in the same city, right? And so I saw my mom very often, so it never felt like my mom was absent. And so in addition to that, like my mom would take me on speaking engagements, conferences. So what is very normal today for moms to do, my mom was doing 30, almost 40 years ago. And I remember for my mom's 74th birthday, I met up with her in Paris, and she was telling me about the first time she actually traveled to Paris, which is like in the 70s. And she was like, you know, Lauren, like I came to Paris, I had 2 young kids, they were under 5 years old. And I invited one of my girlfriends, and her husband told her like that I was a bad influence, that, you know, women with small children shouldn't be traveling the world by themselves when they have small children back at home. And my mom was like, you know, that wasn't gonna stop me. You know what I mean? But that's who she has always been. And so it is very freeing to see the evolution of what we think is okay for moms to do. And I honor her because she was judged so much by how she chose to be a mom, because my mom, for her, and this is nothing against moms, but she wanted to be more than just a mom.
She wanted to be herself.
She wanted to be herself. And she was very clear that like people who stay at home and take care of, that's one of the hardest jobs you could ever do. And it was too hard for her. She was just like, that ain't for me. You know what I mean? But her choices came with a lot of criticism, but it also allowed me to dream. So like growing up, I didn't know that me staying with my father was a thing until other kids made it a thing. I was like, for me, it's like, my mom's on Air Force One. Like, what is your mama doing? Like, I had a mom that I could brag about. And it wasn't until I got older, people like, oh, like, you don't live with your mom. And I'm like, you know, no, but I see her all the time. I travel to her, and people like, oh, you know, like, and it wasn't until other people started to say things and then it started to make me feel away, like, okay, well, maybe this isn't normal, or maybe there's something wrong here. But in hindsight, it's like, I know I could do anything in this world because my mom, because I saw her do all the things that she wanted to do. And so it was very freeing for me to have a mom like that, because it really is sky's the limit. And she's literally like manifested every position role. Like my mom is a valedictorian of her high school. She went to Duke, she went to Harvard. Like she is
that girl
still that girl. Okay. And she's been retired for maybe like almost 20 years, and she's takes continuing education classes. She goes to conferences, like she writes, like she has such a vigor for life, and she wants to live into 100. And I think by the grace of God, I'm going to knock on wherever wood is, right? That she will live that long. And it's just such an inspiration to have her as a mom, to be able to see that like, that she really, she has such a vigor. And it's like I said, I'm just very grateful and blessed. And it's a privilege. Like I talked about that earlier. Like I have intangible privileges. It's like to look at my mom and admire her. Like, because there are times growing up where like I saw other mother-daughter relationships where like, oh, like they're super, super close, like they're friends. And I remember having this conversation with one of my friends, and she was like, you know, me and my mom are super, super close, and we can kiki it up, but like, I'm not proud of my mom.
Oh shit.
And it wasn't to like
bombs
not
like this?
not to down her mom, but she was like, you know, I can't look at my mom and be like, ooh, I want to be like that. So, you know, don't envy me. There's things that I look at you that I wish I had too. And so it was very freeing for me to hear that from a friend, because it was like, we all need to be grateful for what we do have, right? And there were things that, you know, I was like, oh, like I wish me and my mom were like this. And granted, me and my mom are close, but it's different versus having your custodial parent. You're just, you know, it's just different. Yeah. And that was very freeing for me. She was like, I wish I could look up to my mom. I wish there were like things that I wasn't the first on, that she could like give me insight on. And we're friends all day, but there's things in my life that I've already surpassed. And there's things that she can't really guide me on that your mom can guide you on. Your mom can put you in contact with people that she went to Harvard Business School with. She got a network. And so that really freed me. And obviously there's no right or wrong way or perfect way to be a mother, right? And my mom just took a different route. And she just made her, you know, her husbands, her baby daddies, you know, do more than the average. And, you know, and it was a blessing, because I also like, I can speak about the father-daughter relationship in a different type of way. And it's very beautiful that me and my father have that relationship. And for me able just to see the value of a man, right? Because I think there's so many instances where, obviously there are a lot of men that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, but there are a lot of men that are. And so to see a black man be a custodial parent of a 5-year-old, like he used to do my hair.
A 5-year-old.
Right.
Girl.
A girl, a 5-year-old girl, right? Doing my hair. I was looking crazy, but doing my hair. You know what I mean? Like, and having that protection and covering. And truth be told, the game plan was for me to eventually move with my mom. Like, so once she got, the plan was once she got settled, because her appointment was only for 30 days, and then it was extended to 6 months, and then it turned into a full-on appointment under Bill Clinton. And then once she got settled, it was like, okay, then it was for me to move to DC, but my dad wasn't going for it. And my mom was like, all right, like, am I going to fight this? Like, go to court? And both of my parents, like, we not court people. We handle our stuff outside the courts. And they both had joint custody. And they actually had one of the first joint custody cases in the state of Georgia. Like, joint custody wasn't even a thing. It was
they want
the mother,
one person.
And so they were, innovative in having joint custody. And so when my mom wanted me to move to DC, and my dad was like, she was like, I can either fight this, or like, for her, it was like, okay, my daughter's in a very loving environment. It would have been different if you were in a space that I thought that wasn't safe for you. And I would have taken you out of it. But it was like, it's consistent. It's
safe.
She loves her father, and it's safe. And it's like, and I just hope and pray that when she gets older, she won't think that I abandoned her. And many people thought that I would internalize that as like abandonment, like my mom didn't want me or anything like that. And that wasn't the case. And I'm just so grateful. And I tell all of my friends that are parents now, or for children, that I hope that both parents and children make it to adulthood for that reconciliation. Because you want to get to the point to where you can see your parents as humans. And I hope that both the child and the parent lives long enough for that reconciliation to happen. Because as a kid, you may not know, like, why is this happening? Your mind is not able to really conceive or understand why certain decisions are made. But I'm just so grateful that she made that decision for me to have that type of relationship with my father. And then also to be able to like travel the world. Like to be able to say I started flying by myself at 5 years old. Like I had to talk to adults as a child, being able to navigate my level of independence, my level of how sure I am about myself, the freedom, all of that comes from the decisions that they made. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I've gone on a tangent, but that's who my mom is.
That's what we're here for. We're here for you.
She is that girl. Okay. Still to this day, that girl.
I'm so moved by your story, and I'm just so grateful to have just run across you, because that is exactly what happened in a sense with me. Mm-hmm. And I'm my first marriage was a different Samaya marrying someone at 22 years old. Mm-hmm. So I didn't even think I wanted children. Mm-hmm. And so when I got pregnant, I became a different person, looking a different person at 25. I've always been a certain type of shape and things like that. I have roles that girls my age don't have from things that are not, in my circle, I was the first friend to have a child. Not like people don't get pregnant.
Right.
But at that age, it's supposed to be hot girl.
Right.
So I wasn't given hot girl.
Right.
And I did not feel like a hot girl. I felt like a hot potato. And I just, starting my own business, Sexual Essentials was really, it was independence for me, and also it was love, because I wasn't in the right marriage. So there were so many things I was missing. And Sexual Essentials gave me an avenue. My trauma gave me an avenue to getting out of my trauma, believe it or not. So with, we've kind of covered some of my details, but I'm in a new life. So I've realized I don't have to always mention the bad to talk about why here is relevant. Right. So be patient with me as I'm working through that. But through that, I was going to Bali, breastfeed, like titties huge, like my baby's not near me. That was difficult for me. Like, should I go on this trip? And I realized that a lot of times as women, we are the ones that are putting ourselves back, because we think that we have to go into this box. And also, we're not asking for help. we're not asking for help, or we don't give other people the responsibility to fuck it up too.
Right.
Because like she could have sent you with your daddy and be like, you're not doing it right, but you take that chance, like not trying to do everything for everybody.
Exactly.
Like that's a mistake you're gonna have to make if that's the case.
Exactly.
But when I started the content house, the media group, this podcast, I had no intentions on buying a location in Georgia. I lived and had a home. My baby got a room in Florida. And then after a while, like I went, and I'd say ran through the money, but you see this place, like it cost them out. After about 6 months, the landlord wanted to go up on the rent. So like I believe in, if I own it, it's either it's a rental property or I own it.
Right.
That's it. So for me, I was like, oh, I'll rent a house in Florida, because the thing that we owned was a rental property for my child. Like when I started Sexual Essentials, we got a rental property for my son to say that no matter what happens with me doing this riskier business, he is good. So it's right behind FAMU. No matter what school he goes to, it's already paid for. He's going to learn how to collect rent and how to run those contracts and things like that, and really putting that into him. And my husband at the time fought me on that location. Like, we don't have a home of our own. I said, well, the home that we buy, we ain't gonna be able to fit in for long, because what we can afford is some 3-bedroom house. And a 3-bedroom house is not to shade anybody, but if it's 3 of us, and our family lives out of town and we already have a kid, it's a lot. And when you can buy a rental property, that might not be the rental property we would buy. Ended up buying a duplex. So now my baby has 6 tenants. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't until after we divorced that he was like, thank you for making us do that. So it was then also that I realized, like, I do have a degree. Like, I've lived a lot of life. I've made a lot of money. Like, I may not have done it the correct way. Like, there's like this way I'm doing it different, right? But I like, listen to me. Like, look at this place. This is $1 million home. I did not get it for $1 million. I got it for way less than $1 million, And it's a vision and what can be done with it and seeing the investment. And so when I had to move out of that place, because they were trying to go up on it didn't make sense. I was doing the work on that house, and I was like, I am a landlord. What you're doing doesn't make sense. It isn't fair. I decided I was going to move out, because if you stay in a situation that don't work, you're telling them that I don't have another choice. Baby, I got another choice.
Options.
I slept in that van.
You got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do. And for a little bit, it was cool because it was warm. But this past winter, I got scared because it got cold. And I actually woke up cold in the van. So it was like, my heart wasn't prepared. Yeah, I turned the van on and it warmed up. It was fine.
But it was like, ooh.
It was like, okay, hold on, bitch. We really doing this. And so that sent me into a wave of like, what is my kid thinking of me? Or like, when I say like, hey, I just got back to Atlanta. I need a second before I turn back around and come back to Florida. Feeling judgment. And that doesn't even exist. Whatever he thinking, he has all rights to think. We are not married because he don't agree with how I think. And that is okay.
That's okay.
So looking for that validation in your partner, even if you're married, sometimes can be the detriment of you. Like the first partner you have is yourself. And so I really love the fact that you said your mom just was like, I want to be me. And following where that road took her, because that's literally what I'm doing. And I had to ask my child, I was like, are you happy? And he was like, yeah, I'm happy. But he did tell me, I wish we weren't so late all the time everywhere. And I said, you know what, baby, that's fair. That's fair. And so like in the van, we have a chalkboard and we put the word of the day on it, what we making for lunch. Like we pay restaurant when I cook dinner. And for that week, I put time management up there, because I said, you know what, I have to explain to him what time management means, because I do need to be on time more. But the fact that it was bothering him, that bothered me. So I said, look, this is what we got to do. We got to say, how far is it that we got to go? What do we need to do on our list before we leave? And what time do we need to leave to be on time?
I love it.
Girl, he did it with me for a week. Like, okay, we got to get ready. I got to do this, and this. Because otherwise, baby, we move without putting everything away. The house about to go everywhere. So he started helping me that week take off the window covers when we wake up in the morning, or like, okay, I brush my teeth by myself. And we're moving around the van, but also he knows our routines, how we do things and what needs to be put where and stuff like that. And in that week, we made it to school almost on time every single day. But also he did not harp on me nearly as much and was less judgmental himself, because my child is a logical child. He don't understand why we late. Period. So me going through that with him, he realized, oh, you have to do a lot of stuff to leave. And I had to tell him, I said, I'm sorry that because also what he said is valid. I had to apologize to him. I'm sorry that we're always late. I said, just remember that mommy's house and daddy's house are different. I said, you and daddy live this address, right? I said, well, we live at a different place each week. So the distance from school is different sometimes. I need to leave a little bit earlier, right? Okay, babe. And he heard me on that. And by the end of the week, he understood that it's just mommy when I'm with mommy. Versus, even though his dad does mostly everything for him, though, there is a bonus parent there.
Right.
So giving myself the
grace
to be and just the best thing I can do for my child is at least be myself. Because no matter what, you're going to do something to them where they're going to need therapy. No matter what. It cannot be traumatic or crazy, but it's going to be something. They need to go to therapy, period. Yeah. I don't want him to have to go to therapy for me being somebody I thought I was supposed to be versus who I actually am. And I want him to be proud of me having the guts and the balls to just be happy, because I don't know everything, but I do know my child is well versed in the things he understands about traveling. And even when you made your post about your mom saying that for the summer she would give you the map, like, what are we gonna do?
Yes.
I asked him the other day, I saw that and I said, Trey, as soon as I saw it, I said, where do you want to go this summer?
Yes. And like, I really commend you. And you are giving your son an adventure. And I wholeheartedly know you are planting seeds. Who knows how they're going to grow and manifest. And I just commend you for being fearless in doing that. And because it's fun. As a kid, you just like, everything is fun. You know what I mean? Like everything is fun. And so even like all of the travels that me and my mom used to do during the summertime, some of that shit was her work, but she would make it, you know what I mean?
We gonna always go do something
else.
Right,
we were always doing other things. And so to me, I thought it was just a full vacation all of the time. But some of those locations, she was handling business at the same time. But it's such a blessing, I think, to like see your mom truly be who they are. Without any like inhibitions or like, and also to know when you got older, it's like, dang, she was getting judged, but she still did this. You know what I mean? So I commend you for everything that you're doing. And I know it's going to pay dividends for your son. For sure. Because I think similarly, like eventually my father got married and, he had help and all that kind of stuff. And as a man, like he, financially took care of a lot of things. Like even like when I would fly to DC, like he would upgrade me to first class to try to show off to my mom,
my baby read from the rewards.
Right, I care. Exactly. For me, it's like, all right, I'm in first class this time, and as you get older, you realize like, yeah, you should have been doing that. Yeah, you should have been paying for everything, like I'm your child, and yeah, I just want to commend you, and I can imagine that you may get judged for different things, and just know your child gonna be fine, and he's probably gonna be a superstar, okay, and a one of one, because I wholeheartedly believe that the choices that my mother made is like, I am a direct reflection of those choices. You know what I mean? How big I see this world, the fact that I started a travel business and brand and platform literally came from my mom making me do book reports and write about all of the places that we went, and learn about it and then regurgitate it back to her. I literally grew up and created a business that I went around the world and did the exact same thing.
Doing book reports all over the world.
Book reports all around the world and sharing with people that look like me. So it's like, you never know, like, the seeds that you are planting. If you are a good person, you have a good heart, and you are a protector of your child, that's all, you've done it. You know what I mean?
I remember my first time seeing my child in the director's chair, like while we were recording, and he sat there, and I said, "Oh, it's up."
Yeah,
I saw that, and I'm telling you, my heart melted, because I'm like, he just in the mix. He just glad he in here, because it's no kid. You can't be in here where I said, like, he the only kid, and yes, it's a lot of adults that go to his birthday parties, but like, he has the balance now, and I'm just so grateful for. And my ex-husband, I say this all the time, I didn't pick the right partner, but I did pick the right person. And it's for a reason. And even though his ways did not work for me in my life, it does give my child, I'm such a traditional person, believe it or not. Like, yes, I'm polyamorous. So like, yeah, I want to have Thanksgiving dinner and stuff, but I want all my partners to be there and all their kids. Like, but it's still Thanksgiving dinner. I want the Sunday dinner thing. Like, oh, we doing homework? Okay, I got the baby. Like, I just believe in community. And what I realize is that I had to learn to stop being so apologetic to my son, because he don't think nothing wrong.
Yeah.
If he starts thinking something's wrong, I'm creating the issue.
Exactly.
So I would like to pivot a little bit because I want to know, you don't understand scarcity. It doesn't exist to you because you've always, I would love for you to talk to that point and just even, and I want to say this in two ways.
Okay.
I would love for you to talk to that point of just realizing that other people, because also empathy is important. You don't have to go through it to understand like that this problem is here.
Right.
But also talking to the point of the other issues on the other side that people may not see, or what it may be like going through actually traumatic things at an older age, because taking care of your father at 26 and there are rewards that come out of that, but also there's a lot of sacrifice.
A lot of sacrifice. Yeah.
26. What were you doing at 26? Whoever's
Like,
listening to this, what are you doing?
So the first thing, the scarcity and abundance, I would wholeheartedly say that my parents set that foundation, right? And not so much being spoiled, right, or like having a whole lot of things, but I think it's the exposure. So you just talked about your son sitting in the director chair. So by both of my parents following their dreams, so neither one of my parents settled for the life that they had. They both followed their dreams. And so as a byproduct and being their kid, I got to see a parent following their dreams. I got to experience all the things that come with a parent following their dreams, right? So flying and traveling all around the world. And so there's a video that went viral. My father would write me postcards from all over the world. And so wrote me when he first met Nelson Mandela from the Million Man March. Like, I'm like a little person reading these cards. So like, to see this and to understand, like, my dad met Nelson like 3 and 4 times. Like, and Nelson Mandela actually came to my father's office in Atlanta. I'm like, who are you? You know what I mean? So it's less about, oh, my dad could pay for this, and more about the world in which my parents moved in, which made me believe, okay, I can create whatever world that I want. And so exposure, I would say, is really like the key to like abundance, seeing how other people live, seeing just the possibilities of life, and just being exposed to just so many different things. I would say that's probably the one thing that my parents gave me, was just exposure and experience. And I would say that would trump tangible things all day. So if you are a parent and you may not have all of the money that you want, you have a network, you got friends that do different things, expose your kids to all of the things.
Let them go.
Let them go.
Let them go.
Let them
Let
go.
them go there.
Spend the summer with this person or whatever. So I would say exposure, and just my parents following their dreams. So, you know, I think sometimes people will talk about like, oh, you know, because my parents, they didn't get a chance to do this. And so one of the things that can play a role on is your parents can put a lot of pressure on their kids to succeed because they had to give up their dreams. So you got to get all A's. You got to do all of this because I made all these sacrifices for you. I'm pretty sure my parents made sacrifices, but not to the point where they wasn't following their dreams. You know, I'm pretty sure people on the outside was like, oh, like if you look at that postcard wall, it's like, well, that means your dad was traveling all the time. And so I tell my friends who may be like, oh, they have the guilt from being away from their kid. And I'm just like, well, it's quality over quantity. Yeah. There was never a time where I was like, oh, my dad's not here. But obviously from having a postcard wall, that man was traveling all the time. And my mom,
of you
all the time. So, but I don't have a concept of my dad was not there, which means that the quality of those experiences were very high. And so that is how I think I move from a space of abundance. It's like, I can do anything. Obviously you need resources to do things, but I always believe that I can get the resources to figure out how to make it happen. Mm-hmm. But the other side of that is there is sometimes for me, I do feel a certain level of guilt from being exposed to so much, from having various different privileges, because for me, it's like, I want everybody to know what I know. I want everybody to experience what I experience. So it's like a part of me sharing so much is to be almost like an equalizer.
So you know this exists. Like,
right. So it's like, I don't want to hover this, because when we talk about, say, white privilege, they hold their privilege, protect it, don't want to share it, don't want to give it away. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's like, no, like, I want any and everybody to know, like, if you want to know about government contracting, let me tell you about it. I inherited that knowledge and understanding of how to do business with the government. And it could be a very complicated thing, but it's like, I want you to know about it. I want you to know this exists. So how can I just share the wealth of information or the knowledge that I've just gotten just for who I am and my position in the world with just people that look like me. And then the other thing that you touched on was just like taking care of my dad. Like,
and that reconciliation, I would love to hear about that, because I know that
it was the hardest thing that I've ever had to go through. And then I would say the other thing is there's ebbs and flows in every business. And my father got sick during an ebb of his business. And I inherited the business during a ebb, not at the height. And so when we talk about the realness of business ownership, the realness of entrepreneurship, like you say, everything ain't glitz and glamour. Like there are times where growing up where I thought we was rich as hell. And there are times like, wait, are the lights on? Is the heat on? Did you forget? And as a kid, you don't really know what that really means, right? And obviously you can put things in place such that your household doesn't have to feel that. But that's just the nature of business. You know what I mean? And as I got older, it's like my dad hired hundreds of people around the world. Like anybody in our family that needed a job, they could always have a job. My dad always gave them a job. And so when you are the CEO, you know this, you eat last. You eat last, which means that your household may be impacted by you being the CEO. And you may not understand as a kid, but as I grew up, I had so much respect for my father and keeping the business going. So when he got sick, and this is like with any entrepreneur, it's like, okay, I lose, I can get it back, lose, I can get it back. And he was in the process of getting it back from like a recession, going through a divorce. And so it wasn't as many resources as, as what I thought there should have been. Right? Okay, so I'm out building my brand, my business out in the world. I'm getting hot. It's like, all right, like this travel thing is taking off. And it's like, oh shit, now I have to slow my roll. I was pissed. I was mad at God. Like, why would I be doing this? And you're now telling me that I got to stop this to like take care of my dad. And he's on his way out.
So you can't say no.
You can't really say no, right? And it's just like, why is this happening at this time? And we bumped heads, because it's just like, you taught me to be an entrepreneur. You said, like, don't ever get comfortable signing back of checks. You want to sign the front. Okay, that's what I'm out here trying to do.
I know that's right.
Okay. And, eventually it was like, Lauren, like, I need for you to secure that this is a 30+ year business. This is the legacy that, you stand on. And I need for you to secure this for you and your siblings so that it can lay golden eggs for you guys. And he would akin it to a car. It's like, you can either leave this car in a driveway and let it collect dust, or you and your siblings could put gas in this car and go get the bag. And that's what I want you guys to do, because I would say our lineage, we really preface hard work. So coming from a farming agricultural family, inheriting land or even having land is like, the land ain't really worth it until you make something of it.
Baby, owning outside people say all the time, like, camping, oh my God, do you know how much work? Like there's literally a chore day. Like it takes me all day to do the chores. And don't get me wrong, it's beautiful. Right. But what we think luxury looks like, what we think freedom looks like, it's totally different because it's not being provided for you.
Exactly. And so that time period, like after I kind of got over, like, this is really real. This is what I'm being called to do, and fully just accepted it. Because for a long time, I didn't want to accept that that's what I was supposed to be doing. But once I accepted it, it was just like, wow, getting to know my father outside of being a father, getting to know him as a man was just like, and learning my history, my lineage, but also just the trauma of the illness that we were dealing with. Like my father had a lung disease. And so I akin it to like, if you were to run, say you run like 5 miles, and how you're breathing after running 5 miles, that was his all the time. And it was very traumatic because I grieved his death multiple times, like having to save his life, just me and him, or like being in the ICU. And so it was like, even though there may have been great things that were happening in my life, I was still under this gray cloud that would not go away. And that's what sometimes caregiving can feel like. It's like, oh, this is a great thing that happened. Oh, but my dad is still dying. Oh, you got this speaking engagement. But after this is over, I'm reminded because I'm talking to a surgeon, or I'm talking to this person, and they're talking about he's not going to get a lung, or this is not going to happen. It's like, and so it robs you of so much joy. And I just remember like me and him being like, you know, he would just tell me like, Lauren, just stick with your daddy. It won't be too much longer. Just stick with me. Just stick with me. Because it was so fucking hard, you know. I'm just so grateful that we made it to the other side. And I remember praying like, God, just give me, like I would fall to my knees. Like, this is just so hard. and it was so hard to pray about it because I knew relief meant his death.
So now you're praying for relief.
Right. And so it can be a very fucked up thing to pray for relief, to pray to get out of that when you know that relief really is him dying. And so it was a very conflicting space to be in. And I'm in a space where I can talk about it freely because I didn't even want to say it back then because like you don't want to tell people that you're praying for relief and you really know that means
morbid ass girl.
Right, exactly. But it's just like it's so heavy.
Yeah.
And it's just a mind fuck to see, you know, like I said, my father's my custodial parent, so he's been my hero my whole life. So to switch roles is such a mind fuck. It's like I bathed my father. You know what I mean? This is your hero. Like, this is the person, like, if anybody get out of line, this is who you calling. So to have those roles reversed and to see that it was just a very hard thing to go through, but it was such a very intimate experience that I got to have with my father that, like I said, I would do it 10 times over. Like, we recorded our family history, like telling me stories for the last time. And so like all of these stories I knew, but it's just like, no, like this is, you're hearing it for the last time. So you soaking it up. And him put me on game and like really just planting to see like, Lauren, you are the one I'm passing the baton to. And granted, I have other siblings, but I was the one that was called. I was the one that was out in the world. I didn't have a 9-to-5 job, and which was crazy because it was like, if I had a traditional life, I would have been fired. There would have been no way for me to care for my father in the way that he needed for me if I had a traditional lifestyle at the time. And so I was still able to travel the world. He was like, you know, I still want you to do the can't stay put stuff and travel the world. Because when we would come across like Indian doctors or doctors from West Africa or doctors from around the world, he would be like, she been there. And if you've ever been in the healthcare industry, you know it can be shit. And it's like anything that you can display to make you get a little bit better care
in America.
Right?
Yeah.
You do that. And so it was, I learned so much about myself, so much about who my father was and his mission and all the work that he did and just the shoulders that I stand on. And it was such a tremendous blessing. And I have never said this publicly, and I don't even know why I'm saying it now, but during that time, like, me and my dad were like living out of a hotel for a period. And I remember being like, you're not about to die like this. This is not how this is about to go. Like, you work too fucking hard. You've done too much for so, and this is not gonna how it's gonna go. And I remember like me and him like praying about it, and I'm like, I'm not gonna let you go out like this. You're gonna go out like a king. And truth be told, those last few years we probably made over like brought in 3 before he left in business. You know what I mean? Because
together.
I'm like, yeah. There were times where, you know, he was in the hospital. Our clients didn't even know he was in the ICU. He was like, and we would just say, our CEO doesn't fly out anymore. I go on behalf. You know what I mean? And
can you grab the Kleenex upstairs on my
nightstand? And I just remember like, just God, like, you know, please let us get to a different place. And, you know, granted, he was in that situation because of the decisions that he made. Let's be clear. Like, you know what I mean? But I also, you know, had real conversations with my dad about his relationship with all of the women in his life, because I also felt like the reason why I'm here taking care of you, like, because you wasn't being a good husband. You know what I mean? And I also was like, you know, I want you to go to heaven. So we about to sit here and talk about all your bullshit. No,
all of it.
And you about to call and apologize to people too.
I'm here taking care of you.
Right, because I'm here taking care of you. I'm a 26-year-old. I'm supposed to be out in the world. I'm sorry. Out in the world, living my life. But I'm here taking care of you. You know what I mean? And you got to live the type of life that you wanted to at 26. But here I am as your daughter. And so we had those conversations. And I was calling him out about all his shit. You know what I mean? Because I wanted, and it's not on me to save his soul, but it's like I really wanted him to repent. You know what I mean? I really felt like God struck him down to his lowest such that he could go to heaven. I felt like God stripped him from all of the things. And my father was a superstar, okay? Had all of the things, you know, black man, money, moving. We already know. We know that story. You know what I mean? And so it was a very spiritual experience. And in hindsight, it was like, dag, I was just so sad that he was on his way out, because I'm like, dag, like, you were really that nigga? I want to know way more about you. And yeah, it was one of the hardest things I've ever gone through, but I've learned so much about family, legacy, my family's history. And now I am hired and tapped to speak and educate on succession planning, multi-generational legacy building, just the ebbs and flows of what business ownership looks like. Because like, you know, the shit that people be selling on social media, like, shit is not all gravy for all years of the business.
Yeah.
It's not. And there's going to be times where you have to bring it back. And I look back at that time like, I just want to give that Lauren a hug, because she was really carrying the weight of the world. Like, I just remember, like, you know, when you are a caregiver and you're dealing with multiple doctors, hospitals, like, you have to have a certain command and a certain level of knowledge. And so I would cry in the hospital parking lot before going in, just to get all of my emotions out, just cry it out. Because it's hard, like, to know that your parent is dying, like, and to live with that, like, and to see them dying. It's a hard thing to face. And so I would cry in the parking lot, get it all out, and then go in there and handle business. Like, this is what needs, and be an advocate, because if you've ever dealt with the healthcare system, like, you have to be an advocate. These people won't do their job. And so, like, nah, he's going to get the best care. And so I was running shit, but now I know how to communicate better. I know how to manage people, right? I know, like, how to handle professional and personal affairs. So I was being trained up, not knowing that's what's happening, was like being trained up of how to talk to people that are older than me, that I think may have, you know, more accolades or whatever. Like, I can talk to any and everybody. I don't care who you are. Okay. I know how to command. I know how to get you to listen to me. I know how to communicate, be punctual, all of those things that was a byproduct of taking on that role of carrying that baton. And so I am honored that I was called to do it. I am honored that I continue his legacy. I'm honored that I stand on his shoulders. Like, even now, like, the world in which he created for me and my siblings to move in. I was just at a conference last week talking to a man who runs a $500 million petroleum company. He's like, oh, I know your dad. You come from a good pedigree. Anything you need, call me.
I know that's
This is the world in which my father created for me and my siblings to move in. And so it was an honor to be able to secure his legacy. It was an honor to be able to take care of him. But then also get the lessons, because I school all of the men in my family, and also some of my male friends, on what not to do, or the things that my father regretted at the end. You know what I mean? Because I really feel like my father died. Obviously I feel like God makes no mistakes, but there is something to working so much that you stress yourself out, because stress is a slow killer.
Look here.
And it's a real thing, and it kills black men all the time. And so there's something too when you get the baton running and doing what you're supposed to do, but not running too hard such that you don't have any time to turn around and hand that baton off. So
I was actually reminded by you that, you know, every part of the step is not
yours.
Yeah.
And I want any first generation person out there that is listening, knowing that your job, no matter what you may see online, is to build the foundation. Do not put on yourself to build the foundation, the house, the cul-de-sac, and the subdivision. Because if you do that, you may end up losing the whole foundation altogether, because you're doing too much. So when I look at my family lineage, if I think about my great-great-grandfather we had over 1,000 acres, and it was all trees. He cleared it in his lifetime, clearing it with no tractor, bulldozer, none of the stuff that we use today to clear land. This is all axe, like clearing that land.
And even with that stuff today, it's so expensive to clear land.
Okay. So for my great grandfather to get the land and clear it such that the next generation could farm it, such that the next generation could expand it, such that the next generation, I would say my father didn't want to be a farmer. He left the farm like, listen, I'm going to the city and I'm going to Morehouse. But My father's consulting company ended up being retained by USDA to do a disparity study, which led to $1 billion settlement for black farmers, which our farm ended up getting a payout from that body of work. So although my father was not a farmer, his life's work still contributed to the foundation and the legacy that he came from. And that is what I come from. It's like, all right, I don't have to be what my father was, but how do I use what's specific to me to advance my family's legacy and my family's mission? And so all of you out there that are first generation, just build the foundation and have it be steady, whether that is home ownership and a portfolio of homes, whether that is just having a sustainable business that you want to pass over, or whether that's if you want your child to be a trust fund kid or instilling them with the skill set. But do not work yourself to the bone to where you die prematurely, are too stressed out, or you're overextended.
Or you can't even get to know your kid.
Or you can't even get to know your children. And oftentimes, a lot of times, we may overextend ourselves. You may have too many balls in the air. A recession hits, and now you SOL. Because you're managing too many things. And so I just want to free up a lot of people that are working so hard because you feel like you have to have so much to give your children to set them up. Like, no.
They don't need it as much as you think they do.
They don't need it as much as you think that they need it. Like, make sure they have a down payment for a home. That's better than what the previous generation. That's all you're tasked with. It's just make sure there's a certain level of ease that may not have been in place prior to. And that ease can show up any type of way. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so do not put so much pressure on yourself, even what you have done, even the fact that you're doing van life, exposing your child to being able to move. That in itself, you're freeing up. And I want you to really accept that, if you don't do anything else, you've done enough. And I want you to do it all. Obviously, I want you to follow all of the dreams that you have, right? But just know that the seeds that you have already planted will grow and manifest themselves in a way that will be such a blessing for your child. And so whenever you're down and out, like, oh, I'm not doing this, or I should be, know that you've done a lot. And I'm not just talking to you, I'm talking to all of y'all out there too, right? Because there's just a certain level of diligence when it comes to this legacy building and this wealth building. It is long term. The internet will have you believe in that. It's like, oh, you got to get it. Like, you got to. No. Okay. It is truly the long game. And it's such that, like, there may be things that you're doing today. Your son may have a whole production like Tyler Perry because you set the stage with your content house.
It's so beautiful to watch us, let me not get out of order. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Everything that you just shared, the vulnerabilities. And I know you're like, why did I share this piece of information first on here? It's because this was not, this isn't my thing. This is a thing that was given to me. And so you're moved to do it because I've been obedient to make this a space for you. Mm-hmm. And what I've learned is that you sacrifice something without seeing the full picture. Mm-hmm. With your perception is your reality. And so your reality was not your mom and dad's reality yet. It was, I'm going to live the life that you designed for me. And so being pulled back from that was probably one of the most confusing things. And so this is you coming back and doing this interview and going back to where you were. And all the people we just talked about, like, oh, do you know so-and-so?
Reclaiming my time, okay?
I'm so excited to learn from you, to encourage you, and to hold you accountable for making the platform and building it back because ebbs and flows. And this will be a story. And we didn't even get into the motherhood and the age because, y'all, this woman is not pressed, baby. And it feels so good to see a calm woman, a relaxed woman, and I know that that's not something easy to get to. And it's not even something you were raised to have to deal with.
Right.
So the fact that you're still finding it's a result of everything they put in you. And it's a reflection to me. And I'm just so grateful that you came because we don't know each other.
Right.
Y'all know I met her today. I met her today. Yes. Like, I followed her. I was like, hey, look, this is my life. And you, that's what I want to be. I want my child to be able to say, like, my mom did this for me, because you it's your birthright.
Yeah.
And just doing my part. But even you were saying, when you said your mom was 75, it was the math. It was like,
Right. My mom had me at 38.
And so it's, I ain't gonna act like I knew that number. She told me, y'all. But it's just, even that, just the way that you guys have redone your life. And I love the fact that I'm in this phase of reparenting myself, understanding that I almost feel like a sibling to my child, because really I'm living in things that I created before. The van is something that I bought with my bucket list. That was my 30-year-old bucket list gift to myself. I was like, you know what, I have the money, like getting rid of that money scarcity and that fear to spend money, and say, you know, this is something I've always wanted. Remembering my own dreams and that dream manifesting and being what I actually need today. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's getting the rewards of some of my own work, because I chose to be who I am. And that reward just never stops. And it's not easy. But it is better than living a life that I don't agree with, that I'm not a tree. I can move.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not a tree. I can move.
And listen.
So we have to have you come back. I say that with all my good guests. I'm like, you got to come back. We got to do another one. I'm going to be on your show. These are the things. Okay? But we got to move on, because I can't keep you all day. So we're going to go into our sex tip of the day. Because, you know, this is not just another sex podcast. And it's to pay homage to the first thing that I built that has paid for all of this. I was told by so many investors and banks, and I told you, venture capitalists ain't my thing. Give me an angel investor. Give me a little angel. And you know, I was told, well, you got to change the name, Sexual Essentials. And when it was finally time to change the company, it was the SE for me. And so it became Something Extraordinary Media Group. And Something Extraordinary Media Group owns Something Extraordinary Content House. And, you know, it's that SE that's still alive. So it doesn't matter what people say. Like, I conform in my own way, but really keeping the SE the first thing. Sex work paid for this. And I love that. You know, I love that. So it's to pay homage to that. So today's sex tip of the day questions. I have to know, what does international dating look like? That's one. And the next thing I want to know is the sexiest country you've ever been to, where it's like, you know what, when I get my man, or my girl, like whichever way. What country is it like, I gotta go back because I need that thing in this country?
Right.
I need us to do that thingy thing.
All right. So dating internationally. So what's the thing? I think, you know, during my era of Can't Stay Put, I met a lot of people. And I also think, you know, when you travel a lot and your life is not limited to where you live, then your options are wider. So I've never had the it ain't no good man reality. That has never been my personal reality. But my life is not a 30-mile radius of where I live either. And I think so that's a thing. So and also I've also created a world in which, like, I am location independent. So if I meet somebody here and we want to live, I can do that. So international dating is a thing. I've dated people in other countries.
Which is your favorite? Or who stands out? Like, you know what, they a whole nother type of, whether good or bad.
Let me put it this way. So in Brazil and I'll just leave it at Brazil. Listen, even with the language barrier, hey, you can still communicate and all of those good things. So yeah, and then the next question you said was where I want to go back with my man. So when I was for whatever reason, like, I want to do the romantic, like, European, whatever. And I'm not even really an advocate for Europe like that, because there's so many other places that we could be going that are,
I've heard.
But when it comes to, like, I remember when I was in Monaco and I was just like, I do not want to come back here without my man, because it just kind of gives you a little sophistication, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I omitted going to all of the, like, romantic, like, you know, Bora. I chose not to do that so I could save them for my husband, because I still wanted to be able to experience them first. with my man or my partner, whoever that will be. But yeah, Europe, and I would say, what other place would I want to go back to? Iceland and what else? The Middle East.
So much luxury.
Yes. Like, and I would also say, I would probably say the Middle East probably is more luxurious than even Europe. Like, ooh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely, because they live the discipline is different.
Yeah,
there.
the discipline.
So the turn, it's not necessarily
right,
the
and
turn
it's backed by
but
oil, so nobody's touching
Yeah.
the Middle East. It's just not touching it. Yeah.
I can attest to the Brazil thing. I lived there for 6 months.
Where were you? What city?
Fortaleza.
Okay.
So it was like the Miami
Okay.
so that was my thing. My thing was, my introduction into travel was, where can I get to, right? I'm talking about, like, when I went to college, I would just go home with people. I would try to date people or make friends with people that live somewhere else so I can go home with them. If I went home, I was going home to work because I was trying to save up for something. So then I found out about the study abroad program. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to save up for this. Got a little grant from school, put that together, baby. I was gone. Like, they was like, oh, it's like 4 months. I was like, well, can I come for summer school? And they was like, yeah, gone. They were like, 6, you're going to go for 6 months?
I love that.
Bye. Like, I was
loved
out.
it.
And they are so touchy.
Yeah.
They kiss before they exchange numbers.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know if it's
They
a Latin American thing.
Look here. They say, so when you exchange numbers over there, they're like, well, we need to kiss. We need to kiss. And you think they're being fresh. Like, you're just trying to kiss me. And they're like, but if we don't kiss and it's not good, why would we exchange numbers?
Right.
And so you're kissing people, or you're walking through places and people are kissing, like, at the restaurant and then exchanging numbers. And I'm like,
What they do that?
and I like kissing. So, like, that's hard for me because a lot of y'all fine. Like, so it was really crazy. Brazil is a whole nother sexual, intimate beast. Like, the energy, even when, like, you
the
just dancing.
Yeah.
I say all the time, and I cannot believe I came back from Brazil to get married. That's great to return back to life, right? I returned back to life here and started dating someone. I was like, I really feel a pull to go back there. Like, I could live a life like that. And his parents were older, and so he just didn't want to miss them. But I don't think he ever would anyway. So it was just, I definitely feel a pull to go back there. So yes.
Brazil's
and
one of
then
those places.
To your point about, like, seeing Bora Bora and all those things, with my bucket list for turning 30, our lives are so different. So, or we're different. Now we kind of get in line, So, but before, it was like, what? I understand that I'm living a life on my own terms, and I don't know if partners are in my future. I don't know. And so I was like, I want to make sure that I don't wait. And my life is about doing it anyway.
Yeah.
So I had to take that step. And I went to, for my 30th birthday, I did the first class flight to Maldives. I went to, how you say it, the Fifi Islands?
Fiji.
Fiji.
Fiji Islands.
There we go. Went there. I tell people all the time, too, do not be ashamed to find out where you're going from Instagram. Because I was like, I like this. I don't know where, but how do I get there? And then take the tour when you get there.
Right.
I did that. And then I went to Phuket.
Okay.
Yes.
Thailand.
So I did that. I did that on one 30th birthday trip.
That's beautiful.
And I was doing like the candlelight dinners on the beach every single night. And they were like, your partner coming. I was like, here I am, baby.
Right. No,
and
I love that.
I was really romancing the hell out of myself. And
no, you deserve it.
Girl, them vibrators pack up and they go, baby. It was romantic to me. Okay.
I know that's right. No,
So,
I get it. I get it.
I'm excited to figure out what dating looks like for me now, because I'm a different woman, and I totally understand. And I want to say, you guys, sometimes you're not the woman to attract the type of man that you claiming that you want, or the type of partner that you want. And if I'm living in a life of lack, a man that understands abundance, not saying that they won't teach or any of that, sometimes you don't want, you want to be with someone that you're aligned with. Yeah. And so I'm just so grateful for the later things in life. And I'm only 31.
Yes,
so
girl, you're super young.
I love to hear it, because baby, you look good. You look good. Like
that comes from living a life that you love.
And I realize that I have to balance the stress, that I do not have to stress myself out to build it all in a day.
Yeah, right.
And right now, so far, I've already left my child has over $1 million portfolio.
Yes.
I'm eating egg sandwiches, and that's okay.
Right, that's what I'm saying. If you don't do anything else,
I've done enough.
you've done enough.
And I'm
Everything else is
excited.
icing.
I'm
You done the
excited.
cake.
I'm excited.
Okay.
This interview has been everything for me. I'm really like a kid in a candy store
Yes.
right now. And so before we get out of here, we have to do the spiritual tip of the day, where it's very similar to the adult tip of the day, where it's like 5 minutes of just us breaking down something from spirituality. Because for me, making it this point, it just doesn't happen without faith. And faith is not just in God. It's so many things. Being open to the resources. And if you believe God created everything, you have to understand that when these things show up to help you, you have to use them. So whether that be tarot to learn more about your own intuition, or understanding astrology, you can't watch the weather and then say you don't believe in astrology. They're the same thing. And so I thought it was fitting that we talk about the 10th house. So we talked about you being a Capricorn rising, which is your first house, but each house governs a different area of your life. 10th house governs legacy. And so I thought this was very fitting. Wow. Shout out to the Astro Lotus. I got this. She does a birth chart. Like, you could do a year birth chart for your birthday to tell you what energies are present for you this upcoming year, so you can kind of maneuver around it. It's like it's like seeing the numbers, like with the advertising report. Like, okay, let's see how much money I spent so we can figure out how much money we want to do.
Right.
It's just a little cheat sheet. And you use it however, right? So it says the 10th house represents the highest point on the chart, and therefore your reputation and legacy. Long-term goals and career are often associated with this house. And so for me, I'm a Capricorn 10th house overall. And so let's think about you, for example, Capricorn rising. That means you give off Capricorn. What do we know about Capricorn? It's the money sign. And they say that because it's about the logic, because if it don't make money, it don't make sense. And it's about investment, because money is not always a monetary investment. It's something different. It's just about seeing the things for what they really are, right? And that's how most Capricorns are when you meet them, that they can feel for you, but we're going to talk about these facts, you know? And so when do you do your taxes? You do them in January, and it's the month that governs money and taxes and things like that. And so you having yours in your first house, that's something that you give overall. Your first house is your identity and like how the world takes you in, right? We take you in as that girl, big boss, okay? And for me, my 10th house is in Capricorn, which is my career, and my reputation is I apologize, I misspoke. Mine is in Taurus.
Okay.
My North Node is in Capricorn, but Taurus is a luxury sign, and my son is a Taurus. Love it. And so, can we get a boat for our birthday and things like that? So I apologize if I confuse you guys. Y'all know I'm not an astrologist. It's a tip, okay? Called Astro Lotus. But my 10th house is normally in Capricorn. Why do I keep saying it? I'm talking about you. My 10th house is in Taurus. So that is a sign of luxury and relaxation. Like, they're very much so, give me good, rich foods and let me relax and take my time to ease into things. And so I've been discovering that. But each year, because the earth moves and things like that, this year mine is in Aquarius. And Aquarius is about different. Like, we just entered the age of Aquarius, where you see technology and robots and stuff like literally about to happen, like AI and you know, and it's also about like revolution and women and children being protected, which is why people are so upset, this genocide that's going on, and saying that, like, okay, these classes that y'all selling on how to make all these, they made y'all all these millions, where is the how to? You know, like, they want more. You're telling me how to do something, but you can't really do it. You just are telling me how to do it.
Right.
Or you're selling information to somebody who shouldn't even be privy to this information, because that's not their calling. So they're moving in money, right? And people have moved into the sign of Aquarius. So it's about different. It's about like family. How are we fixing these things and doing what needs to happen to make it work, right? And so now my 10th house is in Aquarius this year, and I am so excited to see how I'm going to move differently in my career. And yeah, that means last year had to be Capricorn, which is when I started this, and now we're in the first year in, and so now it's Aquarius, and it's like, I feel different. The interviews in the first 2024 have been different. They are coming from a place not of lack, but of I want to see where I'm going. You know, and what I'm doing, and see more of the blueprint. And I shared, you know, the pain with you guys, and now we're talking about where are we going, you know? And so I'm just so excited. And so you guys can pull your own 10th house chart. You just pull your chart from Cafe Astrology and go to the Astro Lotus. I'll put her link below, and I'll tell you which chart reading I got, so you can see what energies are present for you this year. But that's really helpful. I'm all about the research and the tools to get to where I got to go faster. So Before we go, I just want to give you your flowers again, let you know thank you so much for just taking the time to talk to me, to share with me something as sensitive as your legacy. It is everything, and I'm so grateful for you to from you doing what you're supposed to do, because following that has you here for me, and you're doing something for me, and I'm doing something for them. And so your legacy is working, and I'm just so grateful for you doing what you're supposed to do.
Thank you.
Because there are people that need to hear it.
Thank you.
And we're all interconnected.
Yes.
So
thank you so much for having me.
so please tell the folks so they can find you, support you, get into these stories, and see when the brand is coming back.
Right. So you can follow me on Instagram. It's lauren.rosa.miller. My website is laurenrosamiller.com. My company site is miller3group.com. But also stay tuned. I will be launching a conversation series centered around legacy building, first generation, second generation. But then also looking to advise on more of succession planning and legacy building. I have a story to tell, and also want to just amplify more Black family legacy, because like I shared with you, it's hard to create something you've never seen before. We have the blueprint. We don't have to be like the Jews. We ain't got to be like the Asians. We have to be like ourselves. We just don't know our stories. We don't know the blueprints of all the excellence and all the perseverance that is taking place within our community. So yeah, that's where you can find me. And yeah, I look forward to just sharing more with you guys, and just really advising it, and just really amplifying who we are as a community.
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode. Please make sure that you check the links below. Make sure that you sign up for Patreon. That is how you support the creatives that are making this show, that are volunteering their time and keeping gas in the van. Okay. Yes. So if you want to follow along the van journeys, you can follow the Charlie Van Cafe. And I've been making content and just sharing like what life is like, and how we wash clothes, how we do this. And it's so cool. So, y'all are welcome to go everywhere with me. So I'm excited. Thank you. And I will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.